Hey, soil mates. Welcome to Men Metal Mayhem, the podcast where the brothers men take a deep dive into the discographies of our favorite metal bands. I'm your host, Brother Paul, joined as ever by my two brothers and co-hosts, Brother John
Here's Johnny.
and Brother Dave.
Here to drop logs and crank hogs.
Last week, we wrapped up Season 1's Songs of the Damned, where we covered the discography of Soilwork. But we have some unfinished business. Bold assertions were made and then doubled down on, so today, we are diving into Spineshank's crushing 2000 album, The Height of Callousness, to sort this all out. Join us as we play God. For this run of bonus episodes, we'll be structuring things slightly differently, and rather than diving into where we were at in our lives, we'll be giving the floor to one of the brothers to explain why they chose a particular album. And in this case, that means handing the mic over to Brother Dave to expand upon his claim that, quote, Spineshank is the original Soilwork, end quote. Brother Dave.
It is a bold claim indeed, and one that I can't easily blame on the naivety of youth because I was already a man grown in 2014. And at only 2 years into my PhD, I'm not sure I can even blame it on the permanent head damage that eventually comes with getting a doctorate either. So, what the hell was I talking about? In truth, I don't remember writing that post, and my reassertion of that position was 90% to rile you boys up. But in digging back through Soilwork's catalog, I've pieced together a hazy idea of what might have been going on here. Um, so, during the figure number 5 / stabbing the drama era, we mentioned at several points just how close to new metal Soilwork was at times. I think we mentioned it explicitly in the song Stabbing the Drama, where Bjorn Speed Strid's new metal dance moves were on full display. Um, and compositionally during this period, Soilwork, I think there were some similarities. Both bands rely on big, singable, catchy choruses and kind of seamless transition between gritty cleans and dirty screamed vocals. And they're both a single vocalist who does both really well, I think. Um, there's a lot of similar vocal techniques going into it with like layering and those like vocal builds that we always would talk about with Speed doing. Um, and then guitar wise, this is a less noodly period in Soilworks history, where they have a heavy reliance on just chugging power chords rather than arpeggiating or doing anything particularly fancy. Um, Spineshank is super in that category. Spineshank does hardly ever even does single notes. It's like power chords the whole time. But both bands are doing them in a like a really groovy, catchy way. Um, and then from a songwriting perspective, both bands are focused on doing real tight, hard-hitting, punchy songs that get in and get out in like 3.5 minutes. Soilworks trending a little longer at this point in their career, but I think they've got a similar mindset in how they write songs. Um, and obviously, like they're different bands, right? They're not the exact same band, but I think I'll point out a couple of instances once we get into the track by track where I'm hoping to convince you. I think I really can. There's enough DNA in common that we'll have to acknowledge these similarities.
Okay, and with that, let's turn to the year in metal. And this album came out October 9th, 2000. and it was right in the middle of just a big glut of new metal slash industrial bands that really thrived from that 1998 to 2003 era. I mean, we got bands like Static X. Rob Zombie was huge at this point. Dope. Couple ones I was really into is Crossbreed and Dead Star Assembly. So let's look at some of the contemporaries that released albums that same year. We had Marilyn Manson coming out with Holywood. And I tried to listen to this one, and God, what a boring album. uh, we had Orgy coming out with Vapor Transmission. And actually, Spineshank opened for them on that tour where they were promoting that album, which I've referenced this one before. I think it's a really good album.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I love
yeah.
that one.
And we also have the Union Underground coming out with In Education in Rebellion. And I absolutely forgot that this band existed. But this album had that, it had the hit Turn Me On, Mr. Dead Man. And I might just drop a clip in here just so that to see if anybody remembers this song.
Turn me on, Mr. Deadman. Yeah, I want it, I need it to make a man. Yeah, I love it, a fucking rock star. Yeah, I want
Um,
it. I
it's
have a vague recollection. I haven't heard it probably since that time frame,
yeah,
like 25 years ago.
yeah. I think that kind of sentiment we'll talk about as we discuss this album. One that Brother John reminded me of is the band Ultra Spank with Progress. And I never had actually listened to this album before, but I distinctly remembered the cover art, which is of the mouse with the human ear growing on its back. Um,
Yeah, I hadn't. I also remembered that, and after Brother John brought it up, I went and listened to this album. Well, I listened to like the first half, and I was like, "This is forgettable," and I turned it off.
uh, the last two I have is Nothing Face with Violence and Mudvayne with LD50, which had their mega hit Dig. Weird guys in face paint playing some real bass heavy slapping a bass new metal.
The original, the what? I forgot their name. God damn it! It was going to be a good joke.
I'm leaving
Slipknot,
that in.
Slipknot. There we go. God damn it.
but I
The
think
original
Slipknot.
Slipknot. But
Well, Slipknot was out
I,
before Mudvayne, weren't
yeah,
they?
Yeah,
actually, I think Slipknot was like 96, 98 or something.
Yeah, I
90s
always
Or
felt
six,
I
if
never
not
really
even
listened
earlier.
much. Oh, what? Now we're all talking over each
Yeah.
other. We're so excited about new metal. But I mean, I always liked Slipknot quite a lot way back then, and I always kind of felt like I didn't really get into Mudvayne. I thought they were more like knockoff, like poser
yeah, they
wannabe Slipknot, but they were never as cool.
that's very possible because Slipknot was early in the new metal movement and like
Yes.
gained steam pretty fast. And I remember we were listening to their first album, the one before the one where they really took off.
hmm
Oh,
Um,
Mate, Feed, Kill, Repeat.
Yeah, that one,
Yeah, I don't really
which
remember any
wasn't
of the
as good.
songs on that now. No, it wasn't as good, but and it wasn't really widely released. But yeah, we got that around that time too, because we are like, oh, we got to get more Slipknot. And
Hmm.
then, their earlier stuff wasn't as good.
Yeah, yeah, one of those things. I feel like I didn't really understand how bands evolved back then when I was sort of getting into music and was frequently disappointed when I would dig back into discographies and be like, this is kind of shitty.
You know who didn't disappoint in that same kind of context was the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, because we
Hmm.
probably discovered them when they came out with The Impression That I Get, and then went back and got like their prior 5 or 6 albums, and we're like, these guys fucking rule. Everything they've done, love it.
and of course, 2000 is when Soilwork released their second album, The Chain Heart Machine, which we collectively rated a 3.7. So now let's turn to the album itself. This is Spineshank's sophomore album. Their debut, Strictly Diesel, was a commercial failure, and apparently they wanted to take creative control and shed the rap influences of nu metal and make something way more aggressive than what came out on their debut, which they were not happy with. And playing on this album are Johnny Santos, vocals, Mike Sarkisian, guitar, Robert Garcia, bass and backing vocals, and Tommy Decker, drums, electronics. And he also seems to be the chief lyricist of the band, he was credited with 7 of the 11 tracks. And this album was produced by a little man named Garth Richardson. And a couple of his credits that I find interesting are he did Rage Against the Machine's debut album. He helped our friends over in Still Remains with Of Love and Lunacy. Noted Christian ska band the OC Supertones. He did their album Chase the Sun. And he did Devin Townsend's Light Work. So, what a broad
When,
range.
when did
Running the
Lightwork come
gamut.
out? I thought Devin was doing all his own stuff.
No, I mean, it must have been like a co-production, but yeah.
Yeah, because that's a very recent one.
Yeah, I
Interesting.
think,
It's 2022.
yeah. So, I mean, let's get Devin on the horn and
Yep,
ask
we
him
can
what it's all
really
about.
get the
Um,
get the skinny.
yeah. Well, let's get into it. We got 11 standard tracks, just over 37 minutes, and then 2 bonus tracks. And it kicks off with track number 1, Asthmatic. Brother Dave, this is your
Seems only
show.
fair.
Yeah, explain yourself, Dave. Come on.
I mean, what a way to kick off an album. Like just the guitar tone immediately hits you and you know that this is going to be aggressive. Uh the bass is playing along with it, really filling out that low end. I feel like the bass on this album doesn't stand out largely. I think it's pretty much playing the same riffs as the guitars, just kind of doubling it lower down. That gives it a really big punchy feel despite only having one guitar part going through almost all the album. Uh, we get we get the mix of the cleans and the screams in the vocals. The cleans come in the chorus, coming along with the drums. I think what's his name? Tommy. Tommy is showing off his drumming, which isn't gonna be to the same level as later Soilwork, which we've been talking about. Dirk Verburen is an absolute beast.
Hmm.
But what Tommy does here and throughout this album is just, it's so good. It works really well. It's really groovy, and it's not simple by any means. It's complicated enough that it keeps me interested. We get a classic Soilwork move, the slow down in the middle of the song that builds back up into the last chorus. We get another classic Soilwork move of screaming lies, layers of lies. And at 2:38, we get a big layered scream going on in here. I mean, this is sounding like proto Soilwork to me, boys. What do you think?
Um, I think that what a great opener. It truly doesn't waste any time setting the tone for this record. And that tone is just blistering aggression, like right out the gates. We get a great little electronic bleep blop breakdown at the 145 mark. God, and then when the vocals kick in and build with the I won't give in to, I won't give in to, and it just keeps building and building, and then it just explodes like they have talked about how they just wanted to make an aggressive record that was just purely them. Like apparently like they were all kind of dealing with some heavy shit at the time. And track
This is
one,
a pissed,
yeah,
angry record.
yes. Yeah. And I not to, blow my load too early, but I'm gonna edit that out. I don't like that phrase.
Leave it
Uh,
in, leave it in.
leave it in. No, but I
Come
so I
on, blow
listened
it,
to
blow it.
yeah, so I listened to a bunch of the albums that I talked about up top, um, and a lot of them just feel antiseptic, like they're just not as aggressive or just yeah, pissed is a good word to say. I was like, oh my God, like. I used to think that was, in middle school was I was of that age when all this stuff was coming out. And I would think, wow, this is the angriest thing I've ever heard. And I listened to it and I'm like, oh, this is nothing. But listening to this, I'm like, holy shit. Okay, these
He's
guys are,
he is as angry now as I thought he was back in 2000 or whenever I heard this album.
yeah, yeah. Um, so Brother John, we're all waiting on you.
All right. Well, so I had no history with this band. I had maybe listened to this album once a couple months ago when we had talked about it in connection with whatever prior episode that came up when we were mentioning Dave's Facebook comment from 2014 with this bold claim. And I was like, okay, I should probably listen to this band and see what the heck's David's talking about. And I listened and I was like, okay, what is he talking about? So I'm interested to hear you continue to explain yourself as we get through this. But so when I first put it on, like I said, no history with this, and out of the gate, it reminded me of stuff that I used to listen to in the late '90s, and I was thinking Ultra Spank. And then I put that album on that Paul you had mentioned, entitled Progress. And as I listened to that, I was like, okay, yeah, this sounds a lot like Spineshank. If anything, Spineshank might be the original Ultra Spank. I mean, they're both, I guess, what I would call industrial tinged new metal. And
Hmm.
to my
Hmm.
untrained ear, the bands sound extremely similar. Like in some parts, this could like be the same band. I wouldn't even know the difference. If I'm just hearing the two songs, I'd say, okay, sounds like it's probably the same people playing this. If anything, I would say I like Spine Shank a little bit more. It leans a little more industrial, whereas Ultra Spank leans a little more new metal. Otherwise, I thought it was like the same band. I don't know. These guys I think are a little faster, but like again, to my untrained ear, I was like, I don't know. I don't know how much I like this kind of stuff. But the more I listen, I'll kind of get into this, but I think I've mentioned this before, but I get Stockholm syndrome listening to an album. Listen to it once. I'm like, okay, this sucks. Why would I listen to this again? But then, for the show, I listen to it more times. I'm like, okay, I kind of vibe with this. And, kind of sticks in your head a little bit. So as time went on and I gave this more listens, I'd say I had less of a negative opinion than on my very first listen through. So all that being said, Spineshank, they sound okay. There's a fast, peppy song. They got a lot of distortion on the vocals, real screamy, very like angry, like you guys were saying. Like the guitars didn't totally stand out. I mean, it was just riffy kind of stuff. They're not doing anything too interesting, but it does sound pretty tight and it's well produced. Like it's a good sounding album. It does what it is intending to do, I think, and it's got good layers going on. It's got a thick, full sound. And there was a lot of comments for this album on songmeanings.com, but I liked the one on this particular song by Hefe82 8 years ago. Just says, activate the pit. Which, definitely this is a band that, like, if you were seeing them live in the year 2000, I can only assume everyone would have been moshing and just like throwing fists and going crazy, getting their aggression out, and that probably would have been a good time. Like if I would have listened to these guys way back then, I probably would have been way more into them, and I would have a lot more nostalgia than I do. But listening to it now, it's like, yeah, it's okay. So that's what I got on this.
So
Well, before you go.
I was gonna say, Brother Dave, before we go to the next song, how how did you come in to know Spineshank? Did I introduce you to them?
I have no idea. Um, they've always been, in my collection as far as I remember. Like I found them early on and something worked with them that kind of kept them in my consciousness more than all the other new metal bands. Like I listened to a handful of new metal bands back in the day, but this is
Hmm.
really the only one that sticks with me. I have no idea where I got them from.
Okay.
But before we do move on to the next song, Brother John mentioned songmeanings.com. And I think we've got another strong indicator here that this album in particular, probably most likely influenced Soilwork. And that is because there's a comment by Speed with three E's. So almost certainly Bjorn Strid, uh, that just says Leet song. So we know that Bjorn's been listening and trying to incorporate the sweet tunes that he's hearing.
It's taking notes.
Oh my
Yep.
God. I just say I'm so glad Song Meanings is back. That we're doing a
It
early
was a
2000s album.
it was a real sad time for the last couple Soilwork albums, not
Yeah.
having these guys to refer to.
Which and when we get Speed on the podcast and interview him, it's gonna be about 25% of just us grilling him about Spineshank.
Yeah. So what
A
were you
band he
thinking when
probably
you wrote
won't
Height
even
of
know.
Callousness?
I'll just keep pressing him.
Yeah. You wrote the
Oh,
comment. What does
come
it
on.
mean?
You gotta remember from 24 years ago. Oh, well, let's
It's a
go
lead
on to
track.
track number two, the titular, The Height of Callousness. Brother John, let's hear your untrained ear and what you thought of it.
Well, this one, I said it's a head bopper. The songs on this album, they have a good pace and intensity to them. I can say that as I'm driving and listening, I'm tapping along on my steering wheel as I tend to do when I get into the groove of the beat of a song, just playing the air drums and whatnot. So yeah, I thought this one was pretty good. And at a minute 24, there's a synthy solo interlude before he screams, "Why?" And I forget exactly how he screams it, but I thought that was a pretty cool little part. I did make note that the song's a bit repetitive and it's only 3 minutes long. So, I mean, it's not even that long of a song to feel that it was repetitive, but it's got that head boppingness to it. So, all told is fine. Brother Dave.
I think it's more than fine. I think it's a banger.
Agreed.
But I will accept that you might not be as into this album as I am. But you did mention the big scream that I like also. And right before that, you mentioned the kind of bleep blop right after the fuck integrity or during the fuck integrity part, uh, which I think really highlights this song in particular really highlights their use of just all sorts of industrial noises to because as you mentioned, the guitars are not anything special for the most part. They're really well done chugs. They're very tight. They sound good. They're not super technical or anything. And what really fills in that sound is just all this industrial noise that's going on that Tommy is throwing in. Um, I just think their names are ridiculous. Johnny
It's
and Tommy. And like, why
Mike
didn't they
and
go all the
Robert.
way? They could have been Mikey and Bobby. They could have gone all the way. God damn it.
Oh,
Uh,
they should have.
It's us, the All-American Band. We got Johnny, Tommy, Bobby, Mikey.
Uh, so both that bleepy part in there, and then later around 143, 150, somewhere in there, they've got like this shaker kind of maraca sound going in the back that gives it this really kind of nervous energy. And I think Tommy does a really good job of putting in these sounds like exactly what the song needs to keep it interesting. Because what you also mentioned is it is repetitive, and that's a thing that comes up in several of their later songs that I'll mention. But they're generally not as complex as Soilwork or a lot of the mellow death stuff that we like. But I think they do a good job of keeping it interesting with all this background noise that they're able to throw in. That keeps it being driving and just really keeps up that intensity and keeps me hooked. Oh,
Y-
and another big shout out to Soilwork is their intro uses my favorite rhythmic pattern Tresillo. So there we have it. It's it's certain they must be Soilwork.
There's guitars in the band and in the other band too, so it's got to be the same.
Exactly. You got it.
Oh,
Brother Paul, you smell what I'm stepping in?
oh, absolutely. No, this song is unrelenting. Yeah, the whole fuck integrity part is great, but also when he's shouting and repeating the height of callousness. That part is amazing. This is such a good song. Um,
Mm.
I'm I kn- so I knew that you liked this album because for like the longest time, we would text each other every couple of months and just be like, guess what I just threw on and I'm loving, and like 30% of the time it was Spineshank. The other 70 it was Godhead. Um uh, but I'm
Yeah.
I'm really loving you talk about, how much you like it and all the industrial noise, because I'm like, all right, that validates my very existence because that's everything I love.
Yeah, I didn't realize how much industrial noise there was on this album until this time listening
Yeah,
through it more critically.
yeah,
And then kind of realizing that I think that's kind of the glue that's holding this whole album together.
absolutely. I mean, you're right. It is chugging guitars. It's not guitar-wise a technical album, but you do get all these layers of industrial noise
Hmm.
and bleeps and blops, and it fills it out in a way that's absolutely necessary.
Oh yeah,
Um,
if they didn't have that, I think this album would suck.
yeah.
Like
Hmm.
maybe that's a little bold of a statement, but it
I
would certainly not have any kind of like specific character that makes it stand out, but it kind of stands apart from the new metal crowd in that it is so heavily industrial influenced.
Yeah.
Like that kind of makes it a little bit like comparing it to the Ultra Spank album, for example. You said that one was pretty forgettable. I agree. That one doesn't have as much to kind of make it seem zazzy, but this one has
hmm
all this kind of layers of industrial stuff that is pretty cool and somewhat unique as far as I'm aware. But like I said, I don't listen to a lot of this sort of stuff. Maybe it's not as unique
I
as
wonder
I
if Power Man 5000 would be a good contemporary to compare them
think.
to, because they were at
Yeah,
least have,
probably. Yeah,
And
I listened to
that's like
that
the
album
other album I
too,
love.
yeah,
and I thought that one was yeah, kind of similar.
yeah. So let's move on to track number three, Synthetic. And here we get that nice little new metal she whoop hi-hat hit drum sound, which I know Korn does that on one of their songs. I think it's Make Me Bad. And we're finally getting into something a little more melodic here, at least on the verses. The
Hmm.
aggression is still very present. got the pre-chorus and chorus. Like, yeah, this is a catchy one. And the layers of vocal screams at the 221 mark is perfection. And we're going to talk about that a little more when we get to the video of this. But Brother Dave, I see you chuckling. Talk to
Uh,
me.
I know what's coming up with that video, is what I'm chuckling at. But yeah, I mean, this one's really groovy again. And one of the standout parts in the chorus, again, a big singy chorus, just like Soilwork does, with kind of call and response, right? Is one of him does the "Still I Waste Another Day of My Life," and then the other one is "How I Let You Get Inside of Me," or whatever the hell it is he's saying. I don't do lyrics, guys. But yeah, I mean it's a big focused on the chorus song. It works really well, I think. Good screams in there, like you mentioned. And yeah, just so much tension in the build up at 210, where he's saying, "All this time I thought I was myself, and I never thought I could become you," or whatever's happening in that point. It just builds and builds and builds and builds before releasing in that big scream. I love what they do with this song. I think
Mhm.
it's executed very well. Brother John, bring us
Yeah,
down.
what I don't well, I don't have much to add. I mean, I too noticed that it was a little more melodic, I thought, on the verses and the chorus. It's not just a bunch of screaming. He's singing on this one.
Mhm.
And it also has a jaunty beat, the sort of thing that you could really open up the pit and do some moshing to. So again, this is good music to go mosh at a live show, I feel like. That's all I've got.
All right. Well, it is time for our segment Video Killed the New Metal Star. And Brother Dave, I'm really hoping you can talk to us about this music video.
Looking at my notes, I look like I got distracted halfway through writing down what happened, but
Oh, I can. Okay.
let me try to walk you through this one because it's not deep. Like much like much of Spineshank. Um, a lot happens here, but it's a pretty straightforward story, a story as old as time, some might say. The band is playing in uh I mean, actually, before that, what I did have noted down that this song and this music video is probably the original concept that must have been inspiration for the Light the Torch video. I think, even mentioned it on Light the Torch that there were some similarities here. It's about mad science.
Yeah.
Um, the band is playing on a stage. They've got like electrodes going to their heads. It looks like maybe they're being downloaded into a computer or something by a hot lady scientist. Another similarity that they've got with Soilwork, featuring hot ladies doing things. I guess if this was true to Soilwork, she would be moving in slow motion. But it's proto Soilwork. What can I say? They are playing, they're showing off their new metal dance moves. Um, I think this is the one where they're doing a lot of like the back bends as they're
Yes.
like hitting the big notes, and they're doing a lot of the jumping that new metal guys like to do. And then it looks like their brains have been downloaded into a computer and put into an artificial man's body, some sort of android, and he breaks out of his cage. Uh, and he walks kind of slowly, goofily around the stage as they continue playing. not particularly intimidating. Maybe he's just getting his bearings. He walks past a gurney and a hand flops off of it, attached to an arm that looks suspiciously like his, and he realizes, oh, that he has been artificially created and he will likely be destroyed. He starts having uh, a psychological break, perhaps, a existential crisis. Um, and then is when the scream that Paul mentioned comes in, where he goes face to face with Johnny and they scream at each other's faces, like an inch from each other, for that prolonged, like 5 to 10 second scream. It's glorious. Then the guy dies, I
They
think.
they all pull like the EEG wires off their heads, and it severs the connection, and I think everybody falls to the ground.
Oh yeah, the band does too.
Yeah, because
It's
they
over.
they reject being lab rats to the 2000s hot girl. And
Yep. Just say no to hot lady scientists. Beautiful album. I mean, if you got to have the band playing in the video, you want to have them in some sort of mad science situation.
yeah, it,
Agreed.
it it's a flawless video. Um, I think I think every single band in the early 2000s did a video where it was them on a stage in like a bright lit room, much like this. It was like, I don't know, somebody built a studio. It was like, I got a stage and it's brightly lit and you play there and it's all self-contained.
Yeah. I feel like Static X also had one where his head was in like a test tube or something. There were definitely some themes that were at play in the
Yeah.
early 2000s.
John, is this your new favorite music video?
Well, it reminded me of, I think it's the Stitches video by Orgy, where
Yes.
they're also like on a brightly lit stage and there's scientists doing science things. Orgy might actually have more than one video where that's going on, but
And
it
in one,
made
they're all
it made me
sneaking
want to listen to
around and
Orgy.
yeah. So
Also, the other thing that really stood out to me was just the immense size of this robot's forehead. You might even, it was
It was,
probably beyond even a five head.
yeah,
I'm
it
not
was a
sure what you'd
6 or 7
classify this.
head.
Yeah, this thing was crazy. So that was the main takeaways that I had. Reminded me of Orgy, giant forehead on that guy.
well, let us move on to track number 4, New Disease. And Brother John, talk to me.
All right, so more singing instead of just straight up screaming, but it's a bit more new metal sounding this time around. And they have some very new guitar riffs. For example, at a minute 15 seconds, I don't know, there's an offhand, I can't even recall exactly, but it's one of those things. I know it when I hear it. It's just like sort of a chugging pattern or something. I think that all these new metal bands, they kind of sound the same. And so that's maybe one reason I don't like new metal quite as much because the guitars are not as interesting. But the chorus of this one is pretty catchy. Um, and the question that I had written down is it's catchy, but do I want this stuck in my head? And now, days later, it was still stuck in my head. I came back and wrote some further notes. It's not great, it's not terrible, but I think I'd mentioned maybe on our last episode we recorded, I started creating a playlist when there would be like a song just kind of stuck in my head. I'd put it on the playlist for Stuck in My Head. But this one, nah, I didn't add it. It's like, okay, it's stuck in my head, but I don't know if I want to be revisiting this all the time. And at this point now, it's been a bit since I listened to it, and I don't recall how it goes. So I think the catchiness of the chorus has worn off. Um, Lastly, I just wanted to call out another songmeanings.com by the user, and this is like spelled with the alternating caps and lowercase, but it's Rachel was WUZ here 22 years ago. Quote, I love this song so much. Spineshank roxors my soxors. And then the equals capital P, like the tongue sticking out emoji face before emojis existed. You know what Rachel was here? I don't know if I love this song so much, and I don't know if Spineshank roxors my soxors per se, but it was all right. Paul?
Okay. Uh, yeah, I mean, we're in more melodic territory here, but what a fucking bop it is, Brother John. But I agree. This is sort of the closest we've come to like that real rap new metal style so far. But yeah, it's catchy. I like this one, Brother Dave.
Uh, Same. I think it's a little less catchy than the first three songs on this
Hmm.
album. Very few songs start off with three bangers in a row, or very few albums start off with three bangers in a row. Uh, New Disease, it still slaps.
Can I can I just interrupt you for a second though? You say very few albums. How many Soilwork albums did we cover? Like 12? And I think of those, maybe at least 10 or 11, the first three songs were awesome on all of them. So,
Bangers,
uh,
though. I mean,
I'd
I
say
mean, Soilwork is a we've skewed
maybe
all of our data
maybe we'll see.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
they're a very
We
solid
got,
album.
yeah, we got to get a larger sample size before we
We
can
should
truly say.
probably get a hot lady scientist in here to run these numbers
Yeah.
and do,
Down.
get the facts
Wait a
and the
minute.
figures.
David, are you married to a hot lady scientist
It's true, I am. We could bring her on as like our intern or something.
or
And
resident science master?
yeah, pay her very little. And
Oh yeah,
you
no,
know,
science master. You don't get a lot for that.
yeah, it's academia. So
Let's let's defund it, but still come do the work.
yes. Uh
Sorry, I
so
derailed you.
yeah, I think I was actually talking about this song. Oh, I think this is the riffiest song that they have, in that there are actually some single notes that are played at the end of the main riff. Um, and, you know, good use of synths to fill out the rhythm guitar. I think the noteworthy musical part about this song was at 208, they threatened to do the classic Soilwork drop down and build, but instead they basically just jump into the next hard hitting part, and it like your expectations are it's gonna go low and then it just goes high, and it really melts your face. It's real good. I like this song.
Anything in my head, I'm suffering instead. I can't remember why this meant so much to me.
Nice. And now it is time to open up our segment Video Killed the New Metal Star yet again. Um, because we have another video, and in this one, we see that the band is playing, and then there's shots of like an art kid, and then there's a hot girl in her bed, and then there's a guy fiddling with some CCTV cameras, and we get shots of the band like through the CCTV. And then it kind of pans out, and we see that Johnny Santos is screaming into a different girl's ear inside like a kitchen. Um,
Which
and then
at parts, I'm going to interrupt here. At parts, his screaming at this girl reminds me of that meme of the drunk guy like mansplaining something to a girl.
oh, someone make that meme of Johnny Santos, please. Um, and then we finally see it pulls out, and we see that all these people are actually floating. So, like the guy fiddling with the CCTVs, he's 2 stories up, floating on the outside, and the girl's hovering above her bed, and the art kit is above his desk. And then some clouds roll in, and everybody falls.
Yeah.
And that's
Bro,
it.
you got to check out our music video, bro. There's gonna be people floating. It's gonna be so cool, bro.
You're not
Uh,
wrong.
yeah, there's not much to this video, but I'm looking back through my past. I kind of gotta wonder if this band and this song and this video in particular influenced my personal style in the early 2000s, right? Johnny Santos, he's rocking the like red spiky hair and a
Yep.
goatee.
Yep.
Um, that was me.
Yeah.
And I
Oh,
like,
we got to dig up a picture of that to do a little side by side for the
yeah,
socials.
that was me in early college. I did red spiky hair. I did the goatee. Eventually, I did grow out the goatee to be more of an Anthrax, Scott Ian sort of thing.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
You did do that.
but like I don't remember my decision making process to coming up with that style, but I kind of wonder, is it all Spineshank's fault?
I want to time travel back to 2000, and ask you, like, see when you first saw this video.
Yeah. Just so cool. It's such a dumb video. Like,
We
what?
gotta
They're just floating around.
Oh,
gotta figure out exactly when you first discovered Spineshank and when you
yeah.
discovered this video, and then see your style BS, before Spineshank, and
Yeah.
AS
Hmm.
after Spineshank to really see that bright dividing line.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is important. The best use of time travel.
Yeah. So let's move on to track number 5. Can't be fixed. And here we get some laser beam sounds, particularly I think at the 140 breakdown. Yeah, this is a fine song. It's I think a little slower, bit of an album track. I mean, it's hard to be as unrelentingly aggressive as the first couple of songs. It's not a miss, but it floats somewhere in the middle for me. Um, Brother Dave.
Yeah, I'd say that this one still slaps, but we're definitely trending into second half slump territory.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's still a great album. The main riff during the I Can't Be Fixed part has a little bit of riffiness hidden behind the the rest of the noise and production that's going on. Similar to how in Stabbing the Drama, a lot of the cool guitar parts were kind of hidden behind stuff. And that was John's complaint.
My
So,
old ears couldn't hear it very well. Put it
it,
loud in the mix for me.
exactly. And we also get some nice vocal layers of lies going on around 130, where we've just got some stuff going on. I like, they're mixing up their vocals. They're doing some more call and response here. And yeah, it's a good song. Good song and catchy chorus that stays in your head.
Does
Brother John,
it?
does it?
Maybe it does. My comment was nothing really stands out to me on this song, but it seems like a song I could probably play on the drums. And that's something I would rarely, if ever, say about the Soilwork songs we just finished covering because they had such technical drumming. But I don't know. Most of the Spineshank stuff is a little more straightforward musically. Like I've been saying or I've said before, I do like the electronic sounds they have layered over it. That gives it some fun industrial depth. But, you know, just as I've listened through this album, it's like, okay, these songs are fairly straightforward. I could probably play in this band. I mean, I haven't played the drums, geez, in like a few years. I'd have to, obviously practice, but I could probably play this in a way that I could not ever play Soilwork stuff. So there's that.
What?
And lyrically, or sorry, was somebody about to say something?
Well, I was gonna say we should mention that we are recording this episode, and Spineshank just announced that they will be doing some reunion shows for the 25th anniversary of this album. So, Brother John, you just knock out Tommy, and
Yeah.
boom.
Ooh, Yes, just how somebody thought that stabbing the drama should be stabbing the drummer. Maybe I could do that. The Spineshank drummer be like, I could do this. I got this. It's fine. But I don't know if I would totally want to. And, I've got other stuff going on. Do I want to play in this band? Probably not. And this was one song that kind of highlighted sort of a recurring theme that I was noticing in these songs that, well, like, so for example, one of the lines in this one is, I can't be fixed because I won't change. It's just a depressing view to have of oneself. It's like, come on, man, you won't change, and that's why you can't be fixed. It's like, you seem pretty upset and sad and depressed. Instead of lamenting all these problems, like, come up with some solutions, maybe get some counseling and improve your outlook. You can change. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy that you're imposing on yourself here. So I don't know. I don't want to surround myself with such negativity. If I was going to try to be in a depressing band, I'd probably like try to join the Deftones or something. Their album White Pony also came out in 2000, which I didn't mention up top. But if I want to be sad, I'll probably listen to that instead. Overall, it's fine though.
I mean, I hear where you're going. I don't think we want to do a deep lyrical dive here, but suffice to say, my take on this band is they think they're okay how they are, and they feel like people are trying to influence them to be someone else. And you can maybe
Hmm.
even see that with their original album being a flop and being not really what they wanted to be making. And now this one is the album they wanted to make. And so they're telling people, fuck off. You can't fix me because I'm already what I want to be. Um, but then also speaking of lyrics, I felt like there was a good one for this on songmeanings.com, which was written with the worst kind of internet speak where everything is misspelled probably purposely and just substituting letters for words and numbers for parts of words. And it was Spineshank are well good, but are they German? That's what someone said to me years ago.
And who wrote that?
That was Tacitus Mercutio.
Okay. Okay.
So, I mean,
Another
if
one
we
of
can ever get
Spid's
Yeah.
monikers.
yeah,
Or Spids.
Maybe-
Did I say Spid? I meant
You did
Speed
say
Strid.
Spid.
yeah, you did. Good old
Wow.
Spidsy. If we can ever get to the bottom of whether or not this band is German, we'll make sure to let Tacitus Mercutio know.
God. So now let's move on to track number 6, Cyanide 2600. And Brother John, you were saying that you were enjoying the electro parts. Talk to me about this song.
Well, my comments or my notes indicate that this one has a real quick drum beat, and I don't think I really like this song. It's just not the vibe I'm looking for, maybe. Too chaotic and just loud sounding. Am I an old man? What's happening? And the vocals are definitely run through a distortion pedal or something on this one. Overall, I did not like this one, and I don't really remember it at all. And that's all I've
Huh.
got.
That's okay. A little surprising because like for the first minute, it's basically just like an electro breakbeat song that you might find on something like The Prodigy. And then it kicks in with something even harder. And it goes hard and then it just stops very abruptly. But this one, it's real electro breakbeat for large portions of it, which I enjoy.
It wasn't tickling me at the time, although I will say too, maybe I should just save this for the end. I'll say it now since I've already started. Like this album, I'll put it on, and then it's hard for me to like focus on any of the individual songs. They all kind of blend together a little bit, and it's good background music or like good driving music or like cleaning the house music because it's upbeat and fast and it's not boring, but it's more like background music, I guess, for me. I don't know. The songs don't stand out to me too much.
I I get where you're going with that. I think because there is you don't have solos and you don't have a lot of that musical complexity, right? The industrial elements are not catchy. They're good. They work on a layers and production level and they keep me interested in the moment. But uh there are fewer hooks here to grab you or to keep you coming back, I think, than you'll get with soil work that is kind of built around hooks.
I need those
Um,
hooks,
you
layers of
gotta
hooks.
layers of hooks, indeed. Uh, um, but that said, I do like this song. I can see where John's coming from in that this is the most out of place song on this album. Um, because yeah, where the hell is breakbeat stuff coming from? It's just they do it on this one song. It doesn't really show up anywhere else. Uh, I I think it serves a nice place in the album flow to kind of break it up a little bit to give you something new halfway through. Um, Lyrically, there is not anything really memorable going on here, but I think there's good tension or good interplay between the guitars and synths and good tension in the guitar riffs. Uh, what I have written here is that ultimately this song is harmed by its simplicity because it's basically three riffs in a trench coat. And we've heard all three of those riffs multiple times by the end of this song.
Yeah. Um, well, let's move on to track number 7, Play God. And at this point, I think it's very clear that Spineshank has a couple of things that they do, and they really like their verses with just underlying drums and electronics. And then the guitars will really kick in on the choruses. Um, they've been doing that throughout this album, and this is the part, in the album where I'm like, okay, this is what they do. But I think it's really working for them. Um, and I really like what they do with the drums on this song, specifically at the 3 minute mark. They like shift and they add in the double kick. I think it's in the second half of the verse. So they like speed up the drums or add in that double kick, and it kicks it up a notch. It's really fucking cool. I like this one a lot. Brother Dave.
Yeah, the drums were stand out to me on this one. Also, I was gonna call out basically all the stuff you just called out. Um, they're also doing some weird vocal effects around 320, 330, somewhere in there. Uh, that I think it works. And then the other thing, another another similarity with our boys in Soilwork, the ending is that classic fade out.
Man, this is where Soilwork got that from. I never knew.
Yep. Indisputable.
Well, speaking of similarities with Soilwork, Soilwork is pretty much known for their catchy choruses, and I thought this one had a really catchy chorus, which has stuck with me, where it's like, "Time, what you tried to offer me, was it really worth it? So, up this hole inside of me, 'cause you'll never take it." I thought that was pretty good. I
Mhm.
liked that. So this song, I was more of a standout on the whole album just because I can kind of remember it after the fact. I also had a note at 2:43. There's a quick little industrial sounding fill that leads back into the chorus. And I thought that was just a fun flair. I mean, we've been kind of mentioning how they have all this industrial stuff throughout. That one stuck out to me as being particularly cool.
Well, nice. Well, let's open up a little segment I like to call Lyrical Tactics, Vocal Gymnastics.
Lyrical tactic, vocal gymnastics.
And I mean, we've been kind of peppering them in throughout this whole episode, but thank God Song Meanings is back. Like it's fun. I miss the early 2000s internet. Not to sound like the oldest man of all time, but it's uh so I just really want to highlight a couple of these comments. And the first one is by Manson Rapist. I like this fucking song. I think it's about a guy who loves a chick and she is just confused and fucked up in the head and she fucks him up completely just 'cause she doesn't know what she wants and he knows exactly what he wants. Yeah, no? Dash Heavenly is the person's name. And then 3 years later, Dark Mercenary '08, which my God, that sounds like a screen name I would have had. Responds with, Manson, man, I totally feel ya. I think this song's just about that type of thing. A girl completely fucked in the head, and this guy really loves her, but she's just fucking him up. But he's got to be strong because, quote, sew up this hole inside of me, 'cause you'll never take it, end quote. Um,
What?
yeah. But then the one that really got me was by Enigma 13. I think this song is about scientists who can create babies in test tubes, quote, dangerous to what is weak, end quote, like embryos and altering genes and such. Trying to understand how someone who does that can live with themselves, playing God, creating life in labs, quote, another loser born, end quote. He'll never be a part of their cause. It's freaky. Which what Christian fundamentalist from our past wrote this? Because I absolutely remember like test tube babies being such a scaremonger tactic in the early 2000s.
Yeah, we were afraid of that shit.
Yeah. But well, what do you boys think about this song?
I mean, I think we should also mention Devhead, who says, "Can we say parental angst?"
Yes. That's Devin Townsend
Yeah,
chiming in.
obviously. Devin and Speed were both heavily influenced by this album. We have surmised.
Oh boy.
So I saw those comments about the lady who was fucking him up and went back to reread the lyrics with that in mind, and I still just do not see it.
Not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit. Like this seems like kind of what I was talking about earlier. It seems to be about someone peddling an ideology,
Mhm.
telling them, how they should be or something like that. And he's not taking it. And
Yeah.
so those,
That was my takeaway. Just a song defying either organized religion or just people trying to have power over others generally, basically saying, fuck you. I don't like
Yeah.
and so it's just always impressive to see the mental gymnastics people will put themselves through when it seems like a pretty straightforward song.
Yeah,
it's about overbearing parents and crazy chicks.
Crazy chicks
One or the
and
other.
test tube babies.
yeah.
Well, oh yeah, how could I forget?
I mean, like one of the lines is really about you make a living off the souls that bleed, another dotted line. Like it's about basically signing contracts that fuck you over. Yeah, it's about people who like con you into selling your soul for whatever and then, fucking you over. One of the most
Oh,
straightforward songs we've ever done. I don't see Test Tube Babies at all.
well, could be mad at the record execs
Yeah,
for controlling how they made them do their first album
right.
and
Yeah. Like somebody was
screwing
like,
it up.
oh, eh. So,
Quit playing God with our music.
But
We know what we're doing.
but Paul, did you ever think that it says the words fragile mind, and that implies babies?
oh, she's
They
balked in the head.
uh the babies are the ones that are fucked in the head
That's
with their
very
fragile
true.
minds. They do
Um,
cry a lot. Hmm.
all right, let's move on to track number 8, Malnutrition. Brother John.
All right. Well, so the very intro part, when I first heard it, it reminded me of that song, The Beautiful People by Marilyn Manson. And so then I went and listened to that one, which I hadn't heard in years and years. And they really don't sound that much the same, but it has sort of the same, or not same, but it's like similar driving kind of drum beat and chugging guitars that give sort of a similar vibe. So I thought that was fun. I like that sort of opening to the song. This song is quite a bit more aggressive than The Beautiful People, though, as is just this whole album in general has aggression throughout, like we've been saying. So I thought this one started strong, but then when it gets into the verse and chorus, wasn't really gripping me too much. Still very angst-ridden, like many of their other songs. So it's fine.
It's fine. I think it slaps.
Mm-hmm.
Starts off with some double triceo. A 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. Two triceos stuck together. It's better than one.
Traceoception.
Exactly. We get a nice series of screams from 42 to like 58 seconds. Around 2 minutes, we get a real groovy breakdown, and then I think harkening back to some of Soilwork's earlier work, we get some spooky wah synths going on. Really, it makes you think of those foggy streets wearing grandpa hats out in the cold. Um, and then we get some nice like vocal lines sung over each other at 241. I think there's actually kind of a lot of interesting stuff happening on this song. Brother Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree, Brother Dave. Um, and I love that we are just simpatico on this album, as we always have been. But at the 50-second mark, his voice just keeps going up, and it's great.
Disengage yourself to replace yourself. Act right through yourself and deny yourself. No, it's in your voice. It's on your face.
Because normally he's got, this kind of raspy mid to low range voice, but he's getting like closer to kind of that pig shriek territory. He's just going up and it gets higher. And it's wonderful. It's fun. Kind of like how Bjorn Speed Strid would always just kind of do fun vocal things. He's he's trying
see?
something new, going outside his range. Look at me. You have a convert.
You're on board
Um,
now.
Yeah. um, and then
The
the-
Soilwork cult. Or the Soilwork. The Spineshank cult. What am I talking about? I can't talk.
And then at 210 they get this spooky breakdown slash it's kind of the first and only guitar solo type thing going on
Yeah.
here. It's not a guitar, it's a synth type solo, but it's spooky and early Soilwork had that. So I like this one. But let's move on to track number 9, Seamless, which I like even more because the intro drums, just the insane double bass blast beats. It's insanity what he's doing.
If you said that you could kill the thing.
And even more than the beginning of this song, I love the fucking ending, starting at about 3:15 when he's doing lies, layers of multiple vocal part lies going the never wanted this life. And there's like three or four different versions of him singing that part. It's so fucking good. Brother Dave.
I wholly agree. uh, in addition to what you said about the intro, I like what they do with it, like it's feedback or something that is in the intro that kind of drones into a screech behind the first verse, which kind of acts like a pedal tone. It's an interesting shift from noise to something being tonal to it. It's a cool thing that they're doing. Um, the guitars also drop way back in the verse to make it mostly drums and vocals behind this noise, which just gives it, I feel like it gives it an energy that a little bit different than some of the chuggy stuff we've had up here, up until here. We get a nice variation on things with the drums and bass going into verse 3. And then my favorite part at 2 minutes and 39 seconds, he just does this huge, he's screaming and then he does a huge breath in, just like, and he keeps screaming and I love it. Brother John,
You guys are wrong. It sucks. Just kidding. No, I did like this one. It was pretty catchy, like that part Paul you said, where he's like, "Never wanted this life because it's meaningless." I mean, that's the main chorus line, but that was pretty catchy and fun. And you both kind of talked about it. I don't. It goes on for kind of a while, but starting at about 2:15, his vocals for the next while are reminiscent of some of the stuff on Slipknot's self-titled album from 1999. So, you know, you got that Slipknot influence, which leads me to wonder, is Slipknot the original Spineshank and thus the original Soilwork? We might have to explore
likely.
that further on a different episode. But yeah, I thought this one was good.
Nice. Well, that brings us to track number 10, Negative Space. Brother John.
Oh, well, I didn't have a lot of comments on this. I think, you know, like I said before, the album just kind of blends together and hard for me to stay focused. And I maybe just didn't really do a great job of doing my homework to try to make more notes. The only thing I had was at 20 seconds, they have some guitar picking that's very new metal sounding, but in a way I kind of like, or maybe it's keyboards and not guitars. I wasn't quite sure. Other than that, I have no recollection what this song is. Sorry. I'm sure it was fine.
It was a bop. Had you listened closer, you would have seen it. Uh, I think it's one of the more or most melodic songs that's on this album, and in similar to Soilwork at this point in the albums that I'm comparing it to, it's their one song where they do some interesting stuff with time signatures. The early intro riff is in 7/8 time, and the outro is doing something weird. I think it's like 9/8, but every now and then they're like dropping or adding another beat. There's some weird timing stuff going on in here, which I like. This song just kind of grooves throughout, I think. And the other thing I like about this song is vocally, uh, and this comes up throughout like every song, is he never says me, he always says may. And similar to how Bjorn Speed Strid has his fun ways he mispronounces words. Um, just listen for Johnny Santos talking about may.
Probably a SoCal
Brother
thing.
Paul.
Yeah.
I think it absolutely is.
Yeah. No, I think groove is the right word. This song is just a fucking groove. It's got a great chorus, but it's just one that you like to listen to because it's a fucking bop. So I don't know how Brother John missed it. But that takes us to the end of the standard album with track number 11, Transparent. Brother Dave.
We started off with a bunch of bangers. We had a bunch of stuff in the middle that were bops or slapped, and they take us out with a banger. I think this is a really good closer, in fact. Soilwork could have learned another thing or two from Spineshank to write better closers. Um, it's driving, it's a little sludgy, and it's dominated by bass early on. Big singy chorus with the it's only this weight falling on my own. I made this mess, now it's over. Uh, I think their choruses tend to be a little better when they're a little longer. I think the
Hmm.
ones that get boring are the ones that's just like one sentence repeated over and over. But this is a big singy chorus. This is where I said it was our first Spineshank solo at 213. I think this is an actual guitar solo. Like big air quotes on that one. Uh, and just really great progression, and when it finishes, it gives a sense of finality, I think, to the album that really works for me. I think it's a great ender musically and lyrically.
I don't
Brother
disagree
Paul.
with that.
Brother John. Ooh.
I I also thought that the big catchy chorus that you already called out was great. Oh, one thing that I had a note on this one at 244, they have sort of like a big metalcore breakdown where they have like big double hits on the drums, and then the vocals are sort of like spoken word shouted a bit. I like that whole section. Kind of brought me back to the early aughts and the metalcore shows I used to go to.
My fault, my fear, turned dead.
Well, I feel like I'm gonna have to revisit this song because for me, I didn't like the verses on this one, like at all. I liked the clean singing chorus. I think that's good. I think it's great. I thought this one was a bit of a miss, and I wish they had ended on negative space. But I mean, that one's so groovy and it's so good. And then I just, this one didn't hit me. But given your strong recommendation, I will revisit it. Um, 'Cause I know I've done that with a couple Soilwork songs that I've been like, yeah, I see what he's saying. So I'm excited to revisit this one and see new ways I can love it. But I don't know. On my note, I didn't love it as a closer. I thought it was kind of the one song that I felt more negative towards on this entire album, which, out of 11 tracks and only one where I'm like feeling a little bad about it.
Yeah, that's still a good ratio.
Pretty good ratio. So let's move on to the bonus tracks. And we're just doing the two bonus songs, not the remix versions of two of the other ones. So we'll go with track number 12, Perfect Ending.
Well, I feel that all this becomes this waste that we call life. That it's real, yet I hate all the things
Brother John?
Well, to be honest, I thought that Transparent was the perfect ending, and in fact, it was the ending on Spotify, and I probably got a text from you to listen to this song, but I forgot to do it, and I have no clue what this song's about. I've never heard it in my life.
Oh, nice.
So again, I did not do my homework well enough, even though I had an extra week to get it done because we didn't record last week. I
In
blew it.
the in the words of Soilwork, you failed. But I
I'll have to
forgive
cut
you.
that clip in.
Uh, I did listen to this, and this I had never heard these ones before doing this. I didn't know that there were bonus tracks. Perfect ending. It was a bop. It had a different feel than the rest of the album.
Mhm.
I absolutely it doesn't fit here. It's good on its own. Um, it's fun, maybe not quite as catchy, maybe not quite as aggressive. Uh, I didn't need it on the original album, and it is.
That word for word is basically, my thoughts. It's fine. It's got more clean vocals. It's more melodic. It doesn't fit with this album. I'd be curious to listen to their third album. I listened to that one like once, and I wonder if it would fit a little more on there, or if that was sort of the direction they ended up going as something. So I listened to their third album, once or twice, and it hit me, as I vaguely recall, is not quite as aggressive as this one. Um, yeah, it's a
Feel
fine
like it
song
would
that,
be hard to maintain this level of aggression
yeah.
across albums.
Oh, I'd be scared if they did that consistently. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, guys.
Yeah. Calm down.
But yeah, it's a fine song that doesn't fit on the album, so I can see why it was a bonus track. And with that, let's move on to track number 13, Full Circle.
My mind is only of yours and mine, but I find that you're still ill. My life is nothing but stolen light, so I look for
And this one was for me just a real snoozer. I couldn't get into this one.
Yeah, agreed.
I well, let me tell you what I wrote down for this one. Snoozer.
Ah, there it
That was
is.
it. Again,
Oh,
glad it did not make it onto this album. It would have absolutely sullied the glory that is the Height of Callousness.
yeah. Well, with that, let's kick it over to our resident rankings expert, Brother John, and see if he's done his homework about what our rankings are.
All right, well, let's see about that, my dear brothers. Our final segment is Bop or Flop, where we decide, does the album slap or is it crap? We have honed our patented 6-tier ranking system, going from 6 all the way down to 1. We've got the bops, a perfect 6, unassailable. This is metal incarnate. A 5, like to stand on that thing. A banger that we could easily listen to time and again. And a 4, or that's doable. A very solid album, worth checking out. And there's the flops. A 3, it lacks zazz. A 2, just straight crap. And a 1, it belongs in a garbage can. It's an album that's a disappointment to its father and the listener. Well, Paul, why don't you go first? I'll go
No,
second,
Brother
and
Dave.
I thought maybe we leave it to Dave for last to truly tie it all together with the soil work references, or should we just let him get that out of the way now?
I let me start off. I'll see
All
if I
right.
convinced you.
All right.
Um,
It may
I mean, my
influence my
thoughts on
final rating. So I probably should hear this before I say anything more.
I think that this is an incredible album from start to finish, sans those bonus tracks. Uh, every song has so much furious energy, but there's also just a groovy bounciness to it that keeps me hooked throughout. Um, Johnny Santos, I think, is front and center in bringing that aggression vocally. But I think if you listen a little deeper, Tommy Decker's the real standout musician here for both having super fun and effective drumming. And then he programmed all the electronics. And as I said at the beginning, like I think it's the electronics that are kind of carrying this album. Uh, that, as John said, without the electronics, maybe it would just be kind of, yeah, run of the mill new metal. It would still probably be more aggressive than a lot of other new metal at the time, but I think the electronics are absolutely elevating this to a new level. Guitars are effective, but yeah, it's those electronics. Production wise, everything is dialed in like perfectly. And this is back in 2000 when we were getting like Chain Heart Machine, Soilwork, and the Mellow Death production wasn't even really there yet. So I think just this being as well produced as it is kind of a testament to it being a great album. They're doing something right. Uh, yeah, this is a certified banger. Perfect six of an album, without a doubt in my mind. Does does it live up to all the hype that I've given it? Is Spineshank the proto Soilwork? I think I've made a strong case. We've got a lot of similar vocal elements. Uh, we've got Tresillo throughout. We got our fade out. We got uh, just a lot of this, a similar grooviness to it that pervades. But obviously, we got some differences. It's more industrial, whereas Soilwork doesn't really. I mean, you're lucky if you can hear Sven in Soilwork. But I think there's enough similarity of Figure Number Five and Stabbing the Drama era. Uh, and that said, I will understand if you boys can't follow my 4D logic to arrive at that objectively correct opinion. Brother Paul,
Well, I am going to have to agree with you and rate this album a perfect six. This style of music was very much the soundtrack to my middle school years. And as I said, like I listened to a ton of these bands preparing for this episode, like bands that I loved back then, like even more than Spineshank at the time. And there's a reason why Spineshank is really the only one that I have consistently and regularly revisited, over the past 25 years. They put together an album that is unrelentingly aggressive, but also super well crafted. Um, like I said, there's one song that I'm not super keen on, but God, it's just hit after hit, and it sounds so well done and it's so catchy. Yeah, this is a perfect six of an album. Rates above so it just stands head and shoulders above all those other bands from that era. I really have no fault with this. Regarding Brother Dave's assertion that, quote, Spineshank is the original Soilwork, hearing you kind of describe where your logic probably came from, I can see it if I squint a little bit. Um, I get where you're coming from. I would have been interested though to see if like Chain Heart era Soilwork touring with Spineshank. I wonder if that tour would make sense because, on Chain Heart, Soilwork did have some kind of industrial elements, at least on the first song. Um, But yeah, regarding the figure number five and stabbing the drama, just sort of, they kind of veered into new metal territory. And yeah, uh, I think, I think I'm gonna have to stop making fun of you
there's a
for,
kernel of truth there.
yeah, I can see I wouldn't have said it. It's not something that would have sprung to my mind, but I think you've convinced me beyond a reasonable doubt. So with that, Brother John.
Oh boy. Well, all right. My thoughts were much different from your guys' thoughts, but like I said at the top, I have no history with this album, so it's just listening to it with fresh, albeit old ears. And I don't know, here's my comments. I'll just go through them. So, this album, it's only 37 minutes long, but at least on my first listen through, it felt much longer. The songs largely sounded the same to me. They aren't bad in the way that I would want to turn it off or something like that, but it's really not an album that I would choose to go back to and listen to again and again, considering that there's much other great music in the world that I affirmatively enjoy. Music like Soilwork, for example. I would say this is worse than anything Soilwork has put out. And stylistically, despite Dave's twisted, convoluted explanations to the contrary, I don't see any stylistic connection other than it's both music. So, like, you have that. There's instruments in both bands. So there's that similarity. They play notes. Maybe a couple songs both fade out. These are the similarities that Dave has identified. And if that a precursor to a great band makes, then my band True Identity was probably the original Soilwork. I mean, we had songs, we played guitars and drums. We probably faded out some songs too. I don't know, but that was Cranberries themed worship music essentially. So, I mean, like, I feel like there would have to be a little bit more to truly be the original Soilwork. But in any event, I guess my point is, if I was gonna choose something to listen to, I don't think I would really go back to this one a whole lot. I'd probably just put on something like Steel Bass Suicide. And in fact, I did put that on after listening to this album a few times, and I was like, wow, what a breath of fresh air. Steel Bass Suicide kicks ass. If anything, I mean, I think I gave it a 4. Maybe I rated it too low. So I don't know. We might have to revisit that at some point. But I mean, it's just like, to me, it's totally different styles. Soilwork is dudes showing off with a lot of cool, riffy, technical goodness going all over the place. It's mellow death, talking about riding on steel wheels and singing about steel and who knows what else, versus I will admit, there's the cool industrial elements, but other than that, it's just straightforward chords and screaming about how their lives suck. It's like, if I would have listened to this in high school when I was full of depression and angst, I think it would have had its hooks in me where I would still love it today. And that is my greatest downfall. You guys didn't show me this band way back when. Or if you did, I guess I
Apparently.
didn't like it at the time and it didn't stick with me, but I don't recall ever listening to this way back when. So, as I think I mentioned up top, I was wondering, would I get some Stockholm syndrome through multiple listens? And the answer is yes, a tiny bit. The more I listened through it, I thought it was okay, but ultimately, it strikes me that this was meant for a different target audience, angsty teen boys, probably. Um, so, without the nostalgia factor there for me, there are some cool elements, some catchy stuff going on, but overall, it generally lacks zazz for me. But like I said, it's fine. So I'm gonna ultimately rate it a 3.6 Rontgen. Not great, not terrible. It just is.
Well, soil
That's
mates.
that's your opinion.
David is never gonna trust me again on anything.
Uh,
Uh,
well, soil mates, that's all for this episode. We're going to continue doing a mini run of bonus episodes titled Selected Cuts, where each brother chooses an album for discussion. Stay tuned for next week's episode for my choice, Non Exist's 2002 debut, Deus Deceptor. Until then, may the metal be with you.
And also
And also
with you.